welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. Justice Okun Abang of the Federal High Court Abuja has granted an application for variation filed by counsel to the former Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Badeh, having met all the conditions attached. The judge, in his ruling, granted the application on the ground that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission failed to comply with the court order, requesting it to verify the documents of the two sureties provided by the accused as part of his bail conditions. Meanwhile, the court also adjourned for the third time the case involving the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Ulisa Metu. Trial for both cases will resume on April the 8th. The National Assembly has made some progress when it announced the passage of the budget 2016, putting the figure at 6.06 trillion naira. Between then and now, there's been a lot of debate about the allocation of various ministries, departments and agencies. We now know that the Ministry of Works, Power and Housing got the largest chunk of 433.4 billion naira. Well, let's do a further analysis of the budget. I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by an economist and Managing Director of Integrated Brain Consulting Work Limited, Mr. Oladotun Mabinuri. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you for having me.
Right, there are lots of figures to get through tonight, but let's start with appropriation to ministries, the largest chunk being Power, Works and Housing. What do you think about the figure that that ministry got?
Well, Works, Power and Housing was given 433.4 billion. Yes. To me, that figure is should have been broken down. For instance, three ministries of Works, Power and Housing are matched together. So three ministries having less than 450 billion. That means each of them having less than 150 billion if you have to average it evenly. If you look at power, for instance, in Nigeria, it's seriously appalling. And without power, there's no development. Any sector whatsoever, no sector will develop without power. So if the 433 figure that we have, which goes to power. Just yesterday, the president promised us to have 2,000 megawatts to
10,000 in 3 years.
10,000 in 3 years, 2,000 this year. This figure, is it actually only to power or to power and housing or to works power? Do you understand? So the figure should have been broken down into pieces and let us know which one goes to.
Some are saying that power alone could go up that figure.
Even the figure is not enough for power alone, because we should diversify even the so-called the power sector in terms of different sources of getting our power. We have renewable source, the non-renewable source, and then so that figure to me is not enough for power.
All right, security has been a challenge, and we look at defense with 294.5 billion naira. What do you make about that?
Yeah, that's very okay. That's good, because without security, we all know what that means. We've seen what has happened in the so-called the Northeast in the last few years. So imagine if you have that in 10, 20 states in Nigeria. So that amount devoted to education, to defense, I think is okay. Because this time around, I think there should be fiscal discipline. So not that we have this figure in paper, then we'll have another thing in terms of actual execution. So if this can be monitored, I think that should be okay, and then we'll have a good security in Nigeria. Yeah.
Right, I'm just looking at a rundown of the sector by sector. Does it look to you like attention is being paid on the infrastructure we need to diversify? We've been hearing diversify the economy. Now the budget is out. Does it look like key sectors that will bring this diversification are being paid attention to?
Yeah, for me, what we have is almost what we've been seeing before now. Fine, we have a 6.06 budget with 1.59 devoted to infrastructure and 2.65 to recurrent expenditure. Well, we have it's better this time around compared to what we used to have. That recurrent expenditure used to have like 70% of our budgets of our expenditure, where capital expenditure used to have like 30%. So what we really need majorly here is actually serious diversification. With what we have here, I'm not sure our government is very, very serious with diversification, because if you look at what is devoted to science and technology, for instance, it's less than 100 billion. We have about 59 billion devoted to science and technology. So tell me, how do you want to diversify without science and technology? Do you understand? Even the so-called education, we have 369.9 devoted to
369.6.
369.6 devoted to recurrent expenditure in education, whereas we have less than 40 billion devoted to capital expenditure in education. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's not all about the salaries being paid. Fine, it's good so that we have less strike and the likes. We have a good employees being motivated. But what about the infrastructure? What about infrastructure in our school? Go to our universities these days. It's nothing to write. There are nothing to write to me about.
All right, let me just ask you quickly. If you were part of the appropriation team, what would you have done differently looking at the rundown?
Well, I would have given priority to agriculture, because agriculture actually is more like the source of raw material for all manufacturing manufactured goods in Nigeria. So I would have given more priority to agriculture, to science and technology, and then education, then power, because without electricity, we are still joking. No other sector would move without power sector.
All right, Mr. Oladotu Mabinuri, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on the news at 10 tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, from our budget, let's cross over to Abuja now. Let's check in with Yemisi Ikbaye. Yemisi?
Hello, Ejoma. Great to see you and welcome to the nation's capital. 5 children have been confirmed dead from a malaria and cholera fever outbreak at the internally displaced persons camp in the Upper local government area of Benue State, following herdsman attack on Agodi communities since February 2016. The director of the Upper IDP camp, Reverend Father John Atta, disclosed this to journalists during an intervention program by some philanthropists following news of the disease outbreak in the camps. According to the medical team attendant to the IDPs, most of the children are suffering from malaria and cholera fever due to malnutrition and poor hygiene.
This is the camp housing internally displaced persons from the Agatu communities. They have taken refuge here following attacks on their homeland by Fulani headsmen. Five children have died from cholera as a result of unhealthy environment and unsafe water from a nearby river.
The only source of water here is the Ochaku stream, where we get water from for the people. So there's no other source of this thing. The state government supply water, and we complain so that we bring in water aid, water guards, to be able to treat the water.
Do you have any casualties this year?
Yeah, of course, about 5 persons died, and 5 persons died from the camp here.
There was no water supply. 3, there was no security. But as soon as the money was released, I bought some GP tanks and then paid money for the supply of water for at least 10 days up there.
To check the menace and ensure that victims like frail-looking Samuel and many others on this queue are treated, this medical team is busy at work.
Because of the condition, we discovered from our rapid test kit a lot tested positive to malaria. Then from our nutritionists, they have also told us that due to the situation of the place, a lot of the kids are malnourished. Although we have some supplements and anti-malaria drugs for them, and our pharmacists will do justice to that.
Preventing a further outbreak of diseases and fatalities, it's important that these camps established by the State Emergency Management Agency have proper facilities in place to improve the living standards of the IDPs.
Meanwhile, as the insurgency continues to take its toll on northeastern Nigeria and the broader Lake Chad Basin region, the United States says it's currently providing over $240 million in humanitarian assistance in the areas. This is according to the USAID Nigeria Mission Director Michael Harvey, who's in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, on an assessment tour of the war-torn northeast Nigeria.
The insurgency in northeastern Nigeria has forced many out of their homes, and this has affected education in the areas. School-aged children have been kept out of their classes. The humanitarian crisis has prompted the United States Agency for International Development to intensify its intervention programs in affected areas. The director of USAID, Michael Harvey, explained that the agency's intervention targets internally displaced persons in Borno, Adamawa, Gombe, Bauchi, Taraba, and Yobe states. USAID believes the task is addressing the many issues. Families in the displaced people's camps, as well as those in the host community, are dealing with it.
It's a big program, but as you see around you, the population in need is huge. So it remains a very challenging problem. Working with a whole host of international NGOs, the International Rescue Committee, Action Against Hunger, and several other groups who are working directly in the camps to support what SEMA and the NEMA are trying to do.
The victims of insurgency in Bakassi, originally from Gwoza Local Council in Borno, are the first to host the team. They complain of poor living conditions and feeding, leading to malnutrition and other illnesses. We need water and drugs, and the weather is very harsh here because there are no trees. The sun disturbs us a lot. Part of the intervention plans of USAID is to identify and empower displaced families, preparing them for their return home.
We are providing sort of electronic cash vouchers to IDP families so that they can buy food, but also pay for other non-food expenses that they have, like medicines or rent if they're renting a small house. So there's what we and the other international partners of Nigeria have been trying to do is just put in a basic platform, a minimum package of support to enable families to get by, so that when there is peace, they can go home.
USAID also encourages informal community schools and has given assurances to partner with relevant authorities to give as many kids as possible unlimited access to education.
And that's all from us in Abuja. Back to you, Ijeoma, in Lagos.
Thanks a lot, Yemisi. When the news at 10 returns, Central Bank advised to align its monetary policy with the 2016 budget. Thoughts on business? Do stay with us.